Hey everybody, it's been entirely too long and I want to welcome you back to 358 Outdoors. Today's video we're going to talk about my son's favorite hunting cartridge, the 7mm 08. Alright, the 7mm 08. Some call it the 7/08. I refer to it as the 708. You can call it whatever you want. It's a sweet little round. And up until a couple of years ago, I had zero experience with it at all, other than reloading for a few friends of mine that use it regularly with success. And outside of that, I didn't have any experience. So when I learned that a very good friend of mine was going to gift my son this rifle for his deer rifle, first of all, I was ecstatic and very grateful. But secondly, I was excited because we didn't have a 708 in the safe. And I was really looking forward to cracking the books, getting in the reloading manuals, and learning about what the 708 is and what it's capable of. And just to give you some context of how I kind of research things, the average big game animal, from what I've learned by reading, in the United States is shot under 300 yards. So there are obviously cartridges out there that are effective far beyond that mark. But at the end of the day, most of your animals are shot under 300 yards. So when I look at hunting cartridges, I look at it in that context. Now, when we get into the numbers, you'll see that in this example, I'd even stretch it out to 400, just on that rare occasion that you do get an opportunity at 400 yards, and the 708 is certainly capable, but I compare it to a relatively modern cartridge that came along in the early 2000s that just kind of blew up the market, and it was the latest and greatest. You'll see what it is here, but we're going to compare the two. They're in the same class, both short action cartridges, but I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at the numbers when you see them. So, and also just a quick note, whether it's me talking about ballistics or anybody else that you see out there, you can really skew the numbers in the manuals to favor one or the other. And I try to make it as across the board fair as possible. I think that's the only right way to do it. Yes, you can certainly make one look great over another, but at the end of the day, it doesn't help anybody if we do that. So I'm going to try to compare as best I can in apples to apples for you. So anyways, let's get into the numbers. But first, let's take a look at a quick peek at the history of the 708. Back in, I believe it was 1957 or the late 50s, someone took the 308 case and necked it down to 284, which spawned the 7mm 08. And for the first 23 years of its life, it was a Wildcat cartridge. And then in 1980, Sammy approved it, and Remington picked it up as their own. The 708 is the middle child of all the 308 offspring, preceded by the 243 and 358 Winchester, and then followed up by the 260 Remington and the 338 Federal. It is a ballistic equal to the 7 Mauser. Even though it's a smaller case, it does operate at a higher pressure than the Mauser, therefore equaling its performance. If you're a hand loader, you've got bullet weights of 100 to 175 out there that you can use. If you shoot factory ammunition, you roughly got 120 to 162 to work with. Still a lot of flexibility there. And then bullet designs, all designs are available. Cup core, bonded, partition, monolithic, solid, both competitive match and hunting bullets. And then Midway currently lists 71 different options, not 54. So there's a lot out there for those that are looking to shoot the 708. If I were to have the 708 as just a one-gun do-all, coyotes, medium-sized game, big game, I got a few options or a few scenarios here that would represent how I would probably approach it and load for it. So let's take a look. Envision rifle season just ending. We're heading into winter. You'd love to go coyote hunting, and now that you're reloading, you can take that 100 grain Sierra hollow point varminter, load her up to 3,400 feet a second, 2.5 inches high at 100, your dead nuts at 250, 4 inches low at 300, and 18 at 400, with a maximum point blank range of plus or minus 3 inches out to 275 yards. Not a bad option at all. A lot of good practice with your deer rifle. So, and then as we get into medium-sized game like whitetail, mule deer, pronghorn, I would step up to the 139 grain or 140 grain class bullet. In this case, the 139 grain Hornady SST. Again, with the 250 yard zero is going to put you 3 inches high at 100, 4 inches low at 300, and 17 inches low at 400, with a maximum point blank range of plus or minus 4 inches all the way out to 300 yards. The average or decent sized whitetail deer is going to have a 16-inch measurement from backbone to brisket. So even at 300 yards or slightly beyond that, you just hold on hair and let her rip, and you're going to have yourself your trophy. So again, pretty flat shooting option for you with the 708. And as we get into bigger game, I want to take a look at this 150 Hornady ELDX. Look at the BC at 574. Muzzle velocity 2750. That might be a bit warm, but I believe that's certainly attainable out of a 22-inch barrel. Again, we're going with a 200-yard zero. I'm sorry, 250-yard zero. It's going to put you 3 inches high at 100. Again, 4 inches at 300 and 17 inches at 400. Basically identical to your 139 SST. Again, with a maximum point blank range of plus or minus 4 inches all the way out to 300 yards. And the experts say that you should have a minimum of 1,500 pounds of energy to ethically harvest elk. Now, some of you may agree with that or disagree with that. I certainly think it's kind of nonsense, but if that's what the experts say, let's go with that. So in this example, you can certainly see that the 7mm 08 is certainly capable to take an elk at 400 yards. So again, the 7mm 08 is a fantastic little package for anybody's big game rifle. All right, so not that I am advocating that you only have one rifle. I mean, what fun would that be? Actually, that'd be kind of terrible. But if you were to just have one rifle, you can certainly see how the 7mm 08 could certainly fit the bill and do it without much fuss. So, but now we're going to get into a little cartridge comparison, as I had mentioned before, and I'm taking it right out of the Hornady, the most recent Hornady loading manual. And we're going to compare the 7mm 08 to the 6.5 Creedmoor. And I'm using for the Creedmoor the 143 grain ELDX loaded to a muzzle velocity of 2750. Now they do have a max load in here out to 2850. I think that's kind of generous, really generous actually. So and they're basing their test barrels at 24-inch. So I'm going to drop that down to 2750. And then for the 7mm 08, I'm going to use the 150 ELDX, the same one that I used for the example for the elk. Again, they have that loaded to, let's see here, 2,800 feet a second out of a 24-inch barrel. Levi's rifle is a 22-inch barrel, so I did knock 25 feet a second off per inch of barrel loss. So that, again, that gives us a muzzle velocity of 2750. But back to the Creedmoor real quick, just so you know, the ballistic coefficient on the 143 ELDX is 623 compared to 574 on the ELDX for the 708. So anyways, let's look at this. Okay, so I did take 50 feet a second off for the Creedmoor, primarily because the test barrel that Hornady uses was 24 inches. I'm willing to bet that the vast majority of hunting rifles out there in the 6.5 Creedmoor, you're going to find they're going to have a 22-inch barrel or shorter. And, it's typical you lose about 25 feet a second per inch shorter than 24 inches. So or gain 25 feet a second for any length of barrel longer than 24 inches. So anyways, with that said, these two compared neck and neck. Other than the bullet weight difference, they are virtual twins. Both loaded to 2750. Zeroed at 200 yards, are going to put them both roughly 2 inches high at 100. Out to 300 yards, the 7mm 08 does arrive there with just a bit more energy. The 6.5 Creedmoor gets there with a little more velocity. It is a bit flatter, an inch, if if that's any consolation. You get out to 400 yards, again, same story. The 7mm gets out there, the hair more energy, a bit more velocity in the 6.5 Creedmoor, and they're both 21, 22 inches low at 400. Again, very negligible. The point blank range number there do need to be swapped. The 256 needs to go to the 6.5 Creedmoor. The 250 goes to the 708. But again, 6 yards, pretty negligible. So anyways, guys, there you have it. Two great cartridges. One relatively new, one been around for a while. Not as well known, maybe, who knows. But wanted to show you. It's a great comparison. Two great cartridges. Take it for what it's worth. Alright, so that was a fun comparison. And just for what it's worth, there may be some folks out there saying, hey, that was kind of unfair to the 6.5 Creedmoor, but I just wanted to show you, for the 143 LDX, Hornady lists one powder there, the Super Performance, at 2850 with two powders at 2800, and then the vast majority of the powders there at 2750. So kind of taking an average. I didn't want to go with the absolute top, but with the barrel length being shorter than 24 inches, I thought that'd be fair. So anyways, for what it's worth, at the end of the day, two fantastic cartridges. The 708's fantastic. 6.5 Creedmoor in its own right is a very good round. But I wanted to bring this up because the 6.5 Creedmoor came on the scene in 2007 with much fanfare. It came on the scene as a match competitive type cartridge, and it certainly excelled at extreme distances, out to 1,000 plus yards. And it is very good in that arena. And then hunters picked it up, and it certainly has excelled in the field. But there's also another cartridge out there called the 708 that was doing it 27 years as a commercial cartridge prior to the 6.5 Creedmoor even getting here. And then as a Wildcat cartridge going back 50 years. Now they certainly didn't have the low drag, the high BC bullets back then. But anyways, just wanted to bring to people's attention the 708 is a great round if you're looking for your first rifle, or you're looking for that next rifle that seems to do more for you. That's certainly one to take a look at. So I know Levi loves it. We're looking forward to kind of customizing it for him a little bit, getting a different stock on it, composite stock on it, new trigger and such. So he shoots it really well as it is. But yeah, I'm sure that rifle is going to see a lot of use in the years to come. So anyways, again, it's been a while. Life happens, life gets busy, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to be back. This is 358 Outdoors. We're going to see you again real soon. God bless.